There is something dangerous about growing in front of people who needed you to remain small. Something threatening about becoming the person they only ever dreamed of being. And when that happens, do not wait for applause. Expect whispers. Expect side eyes. Expect silence when you shine and thunder when you stumble. Because jealous people do not confront you. They do not challenge you. They do not compete with you. They speak in codes. They lace their envy with concern. They stab with compliments that leave you bleeding. And if you listen closely, really closely, you will start to hear the same words on repeat. Words that sound sweet but are meant to shrink you. Words that sound wise but are meant to warn others about you. Stay with me, because by the end of this message, you will know exactly how to recognize them, how to rise above them, and most importantly, how to never become one of them. They do not always say it with cruelty. Sometimes it comes wrapped in concern, coated in a gentle voice that pretends to care. Other times it is spoken like an accusation, as if you have committed a crime by becoming who you were always meant to be. But whether it is whispered with disappointment or declared with disdain, those two words carry weight. And make no mistake, they are designed to pull you back down to the place where they last felt taller than you. The moment someone says you have changed, your spirit should sit up straight, because most of the time they are not pointing out a flaw. They are revealing their fear. It is not that you have become someone worse. It is that you have become someone different than what they needed you to be for their own comfort. You see, when you grow, when you stretch, when you heal, you break invisible contracts with people who depended on your brokenness to feel whole. You disturb the balance. You rewrite the script. And some people do not want a new version of you. They want the version they could manage, manipulate, or control. You have changed is what they say when you no longer shrink to fit the spaces they carved out for you. When you stop calling just to be heard. Stop over-explaining your value. Stop folding yourself in half to keep the peace. When you begin to walk like someone who knows what they carry. They say it when your yes is not easy anymore. When your no is solid. When your boundaries are no longer up for negotiation. It hurts, does it not, to outgrow people who once felt like home. But do not be fooled. What feels like rejection is often protection. Not everyone can go with you. Not everyone should. Elevation is a lonely road sometimes. And the higher you climb, the more you see who was climbing with you and who was clinging to you. There is a difference. Growth demands sacrifice. Sometimes it is comfort, sometimes it is habits, and sometimes it is people. You are allowed to change, you are made to. Nature itself teaches us this. Trees release their leaves. Rivers alter their course. Butterflies abandon the shell of the creature they used to be. Imagine a butterfly apologizing to the caterpillars for growing wings. Imagine a river asking the rocks for permission to keep moving. You were not born to stay the same. But here is what they will not tell you. Changing costs you, yes, but it also costs the image others held of you. When people are used to you being silent, your voice sounds aggressive. When they are accustomed to you staying, your departure feels like betrayal. When they have benefited from your confusion, your clarity becomes their problem. And still you must change because you have tasted the bitterness of playing small. You have tried to be what everyone needed only to misplace yourself in the process. You have been praised for being humble when really you were just afraid. Praised for being selfless when you were just self-abandoning. No more. There is a version of you now that moves with intention, that speaks with purpose, that loves without leaking, and they may not like it. That is okay, because every time you evolve, someone will mislabel your progress. They will call you fake, selfish, Hollywood, changed. Wear it like a medal. Because if you stayed the same just to be liked, you would be betraying the very reason you were given breath. Growth is holy. Growth is sacred. It is the proof that you survived what tried to stunt you. It is the evidence that the story did not end where others predicted it would. You changed because you had to. Because staying where you were would have killed something in you, your joy, your peace, your sense of self. You changed because you grew tired of shrinking, tired of waiting, tired of needing validation from those who could not recognize your worth. You changed because growth became more urgent than approval. Because the pain of transformation finally became less than the pain of remaining stuck. And if they cannot celebrate that, let them. Let them misunderstand you. Let them misquote you. Let them say what they must to feel better about staying exactly where they are. But do not you dare apologize for changing. Do not you dare look back and try to prove you are still the same. You are not. And that is the entire point. The people who love you, who truly see you, will not be offended by your evolution. They will not guilt you into returning to an outdated version of yourself. They will not ask you to pretend, to shrink, to silence your truth just so they can feel taller. Real love makes room for growth. Real friendship adjusts to the new. Real connection evolves with you. So when someone looks at you and says, "You have changed," smile. Not a smug smile, a knowing one. Because what they see is only the surface. The new clothes, the new boundaries, the silence where you once begged. But what they do not see is the wilderness you walked through to arrive here. The nights you wanted to give up. The times you bit your tongue. The moments you lost yourself trying to be enough. The prayers, the journaling, the therapy, the war in your mind, the war in your heart. You have changed. Yes, but not simply because of time. Not simply because of age. You have changed because you chose to heal. You chose to evolve. You chose to believe you were worth more than what you settled for. And that, beloved, is not a flaw. That is a triumph. Let the words come. You have changed. Let them come. You did not change to hurt anyone. You changed to finally love yourself. And that is nothing to apologize for. 3 words that slither into the room wearing a smile. They are not loud, not dramatic, but they sting. They are tossed into the air like a joke, dressed in humor to conceal what is really there. Envy. Not admiration, not curiosity, not celebration, but a quiet resentment wrapped in sarcasm. You have heard it. Maybe it came after you spoke about a promotion, a trip, a new opportunity. Maybe you were just living out loud, loving yourself, walking with peace, building a better life. And someone, eyes full of things they never said, muttered, "Must be nice." It is never really about what you have. It is about how what you have makes them feel about themselves. That is the core of jealousy. It is rarely about you. You just became the mirror they did not ask to look into. Must be nice is not a compliment. It is a coded complaint, a jab disguised as jest. It is how bitter hearts try to balance the scales by minimizing your effort and maximizing their sense of injustice. It says you did not earn this. It just happened to you. It says I could have that too if the world had been as generous to me. But what they do not see, what they refuse to see, is the price you paid for what you now carry. The late nights, the early mornings, the doubts, the debts, the loneliness, the leaps of faith, the grinding silence of doing the work while no one applauded you. That is the part they ignore. That is the story they skip. Because must be nice lets them off the hook. It gives them a reason not to examine their own choices, their own excuses, their own resistance to growth. If your success is just luck, then they do not have to change anything. They do not have to try. They can sit in the same chair in the same cycle with the same mindset and blame the universe for not selecting them. But the universe does not hand out destiny like candy. It responds to alignment. It moves for the courageous. It opens doors to those who knock even when their hands are shaking. And you did not just arrive here. You built this, you bled for this, you believed for this. And still, when you rise, they will look you in the eye and say, "Must be nice." As if it was not necessary for you to endure everything you did just to survive. There is nothing nice about climbing your way out of heartbreak. Nothing nice about breaking generational patterns alone. Nothing nice about choosing growth when staying broken would have been simpler. But people do not see that. They see the smile, not the struggle. The shine, not the scars. You bought a car, must be nice. You started a business, must be nice. You are finally in love, must be nice. You are at peace, must be nice. They say it like it arrived in a box, like someone handed it to you. Like blessings just rained down without planting seeds. But here is what you know deep down: you worked. And not just in ways that people can see. You worked on your mindset, on your faith, on your self-worth. You chose to stop asking for permission to live. You chose to rise when the weight of the world begged you to stay down. You made decisions that cost you comfort, connection, even companionship. You said yes to things that terrified you. You said no to things you used to need. That is not nice. That is sacred. That is earned. That is divine obedience and daily discipline. But insecure people never acknowledge your effort. It is safer for them to believe you are lucky than to admit you are relentless. If they say, "She worked hard," then they have to ask why they did not. So instead, they pat you on the head with empty words. Must be nice. They say it like a joke, but make no mistake, there is a war in their heart between who they are and who they know they could be. And when someone has not yet chosen to heal, to grow, to build, they will always resent the one who has. Not because you did anything to them, but because you remind them of what is possible. And that is threatening. You see, mediocrity loves company. Insecure souls prefer things predictable, comfortable, small. And your ambition, your joy, your refusal to settle disrupt that. You become a living contradiction, proof that something better exists. And instead of being inspired, they become bitter because now they have to choose. Do I stay here or rise too? But here is what you must remember. That is not your burden to carry. You do not have to defend your blessings. You do not have to explain your success. You do not have to apologize for receiving what you worked for, prayed for, and bled for. Your life is not a punchline. It is a testimony. Let them say what they say. Because people will always have something to say when they witness someone stepping fully into their power. They will not tell your story right. They will leave out the pain, the process, the prayers. They will water it down so they can swallow it more easily. And they will keep saying, must be nice, until they realize that nothing about your life came without a cost. You chose this path. You fought for it. And it is not your job to make others comfortable with your light. Keep shining anyway. Keep building anyway. Let your life be a contradiction to everything they said was impossible. Let your joy offend those who gave up on theirs. Let your peace provoke questions. Let your progress be the reminder that change is not only possible, it is promised to those who keep showing up. So the next time someone looks at your life and says, must be nice, you do not need to argue. You do not need to correct them. Just smile. Because deep down they do not really mean must be nice. They mean, I wish it was me. And the truth is, it still can be. But that is a decision they will have to make and a journey they will have to walk just like you did. It rolls off the tongue with a sigh, a half smile, a knowing glance. It is meant to sound sweet, harmless even. But inside those two words lives a deep refusal to recognize the mountain you climbed. You are lucky is what people say when they want to erase your effort, your discipline, your tears. It is how they make peace with the fact that they stood still while you kept walking. It is how they protect their pride by pretending your progress was placed in your lap by fate. But here is what most will not say out loud. It is easier to believe in luck than to admit someone chose to grow, to sacrifice, to struggle, to say no when it was easier to say yes, to stay when quitting would have been justified. They say you are lucky because it is painful to admit they had the same 24 hours, the same opportunities to choose better, and they did not. You did not wait for a miracle. You became one. But they do not talk about that. They do not mention the nights you cried and still showed up the next day. They do not mention how you grew tired of your own excuses and changed your life from the inside out. They do not talk about how many times you doubted yourself, how many rooms you sat in where no one clapped, how many times you chose to try again anyway. They only see the fruit, never the planting, never the watering, never the waiting. So they label your harvest as luck. Luck did not make you get back up after failure. Luck did not give you discipline when no one was watching. Luck did not say keep going when you felt forgotten, overlooked and exhausted. That was you. That was your will, your hunger, your vision, your fight. And still they will look at your joy, your growth, your wins and say, you are lucky. You started your own business. You are lucky. You got married to someone who honors you. You are lucky. You found peace after years of struggle. You are lucky. No, beloved, you are free. And freedom is not handed out. It is fought for. But here is the hidden truth about why they say it. If your story is about luck, then they do not have to change their own. If your breakthrough is just good fortune, then they can sit safely in their comfort. Luck removes accountability. It turns your results into a fantasy instead of a reflection of your choices. It lets them off the hook. Because if you are not lucky, if you truly earned what you have, then what is stopping them? And that is a dangerous question. So they label it luck so they do not have to confront the gap between where they are and where they could be. They minimize your rise so they do not have to face their own resistance. But you know the truth. You remember the version of yourself who almost gave up, who nearly settled, who lived in fear, who did not know they were worthy of more. And you remember what it took to become this version, the one who dares, the one who tries, the one who no longer apologizes for blooming. Luck is being at the right place at the right time. But success is being prepared when the door opens. You made yourself ready. You studied, you healed. You listened to your soul. You closed the gap between your current life and your highest calling. That is not luck. That is alignment. That is inner work. That is waking up when others were still sleeping on themselves. So let them say what they want. Let them call it luck. Let them romanticize your outcome because they cannot stomach your journey. But you know, and the ones who truly see you know, you were not handed anything. You took the long way. You bled for it. You waited for it. You walked alone for it. You said no to easy roads, cheap applause, shallow validation. You earned your rest. You earned your peace. You earned the light that now follows you into every room. You are not lucky. You are chosen by your own willingness to do the work. You are not lucky. You are courageous because you stepped into the fire when others ran from the heat. You are not lucky. You are faithful to your vision, your calling, your voice. And people will always find ways to dismiss what they are not ready to pursue. It is easier to say you are lucky than to say you inspire me, but I have not moved yet. That is not your burden to carry. Your only job is to keep rising, keep shining, keep building. Not in arrogance, but in honor. Not for approval, but from purpose. You do not owe anyone a watered-down version of your testimony just because they are uncomfortable with your transformation. So the next time someone shrugs and says, "You are lucky," just smile. They do not know the full story. And even if you told it to them, they still might not believe it because it is easier to envy a miracle than to become one. It sounds wise. It sounds like love. It sounds like humility dressed in words. But sometimes it is not about reminding you of your roots. It is about keeping you in your place. You hear it most often when you have outgrown the box they built for you. When you have evolved past the role you used to play. When your wings start brushing against the ceilings that once held you down. That is when the voices come. Not to cheer, not to honor, but to check you. Do not forget where you came from. As if success is betrayal. As if healing is abandonment. As if walking in your power means you have suddenly erased your past. That phrase is not always spoken from love. Often it is resistance in disguise. It is fear dressed as nostalgia. It is envy trying to sound like advice. Because here is what they do not say. Sometimes where you came from was survival, pain, struggle, silence. And just because you were born in it does not mean you owe it your future. You can love the people, honor the culture, respect the soil, and still refuse to be buried in it. You do not have to prove your loyalty by staying small. You do not have to keep struggling just to make others feel comfortable with your glow. And yet the moment you start speaking differently, walking differently, dreaming differently, they will say it. Do not forget where you came from, like a rope around your ankle trying to pull you back. But forgetting is not the issue. You remember. You remember the nights without sleep, the rooms where you had to swallow your opinions, the jobs that took everything and gave nothing, the hunger for something more. You have not forgotten. You just decided not to stay there. And that decision scares people because if you can leave, evolve, rise, then what is stopping them? So they make your transformation look like treason. They call you too good, too changed, too different. And instead of celebrating your growth, they question your identity. But who told them that where you started must also be where you finish? Who told them that progress equals disrespect? You are allowed to grow beyond the places that formed you. You are allowed to upgrade your life without needing to prove you still belong to the past. You can walk boldly into rooms your ancestors prayed for and still carry their spirit inside you. You can move in elegance and ease and still be made of the same strength that got you through the storms. The problem is people confuse movement with rejection. But just because you moved on does not mean you threw anyone away. You simply chose to stop setting yourself on fire to keep the old circle warm. Growth feels like abandonment to those who were never willing to grow with you. It feels like arrogance to those who never made it past fear. It feels like betrayal to those who were more loyal to your brokenness than your becoming. But listen closely. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your elevation. The ones who truly understand where you came from will be proud of how far you have come. They will recognize your wings as a reflection of your roots, not a rejection of them. They will not shrink you when you shine. They will not guilt you when you glow. They will clap with both hands and eyes full of joy, not suspicion. You are not here to stay trapped in the first chapter. You are the evidence that growth is possible, that healing is holy, that rising does not require forgetting. It requires integrating. You can carry your story without being crushed by it. You can be thankful for the foundation without being chained to the floor. Let them say what they will. Let them whisper that you have changed. Let them mumble that you have moved on. You know who you are. You know the ground that raised you, the fire that shaped you, the prayers that kept you. You have never forgotten. You just remembered yourself too. And that remembering made you move. So when they look at your new joy, your peace, your presence, and they say, do not forget where you came from, lift your head and smile because you did not forget. You just refused to live there forever. You honored the lessons, but you answered the call. And if where you came from cannot hold where you are going, that is not disloyalty. That is destiny. They will not always say it with words. Sometimes it is a tone, a pause, a stare that lingers a little too long after you have spoken your truth. Sometimes it is laughter that is not laughter, or silence that weighs heavier than words ever could. But then one day when your light stretches too far or your confidence settles too deep, someone says it out loud. You think you are better than everyone. It is not a question. It is a sentence meant to shrink you, to remind you that you once needed their approval, their comfort, their covering. It is meant to plant doubt in your soul, to make you second, guess your strength, to make you return to that smaller version of you, the one who dimmed your voice to keep the peace. But what they really mean is you no longer need them to feel complete. You no longer beg to belong. You are no longer asking for permission to grow, to rise, to believe in who you have become. And that unsettles people, because when you stop needing validation, you start revealing who was depending on your silence to feel important. Confidence offends the insecure, your posture, your poise, your peace. It shines a light on everything they are still running from in themselves. You have stopped apologizing for your presence. You have stopped watering down your truth to avoid making waves. You walk into rooms now with no explanation, no performance, no fear. And that boldness, that knowing, makes some people uncomfortable because people are used to you uncertain. They are used to you second, guessing yourself. They are used to the version of you who played small to make others feel big. And now that you have stepped into your power, they call it pride. But they confuse your healing for arrogance, your boundaries for distance, your clarity for ego. They mistake your glow for attitude, because they are not used to someone shining from within instead of begging for the spotlight. You do not think you are better than anyone. You have simply stopped thinking you are less. That is the real issue. You are not looking down on others. You just stopped looking down on yourself. You started speaking life into your dreams. You started walking like someone who survived things that tried to destroy you. You started loving yourself out loud. And that kind of self-honor feels like rebellion to people who never learned how to do it. They wanted you to rise but not that high. They wanted you to grow but not past them. They wanted you healed but not whole. So when they say you think you are better than everyone, what they mean is you stopped playing a part in their comfort zone. And it is not your job to return to the version of yourself that made others feel safe. You are not responsible for other people's insecurities. You do not have to prove your humility to those who confuse silence with virtue. You do not have to dull your gifts to appease the crowd. You were not given your voice, your vision, your victory just to blend in. You were born to stand up, to stand tall, to stand true. And some people cannot handle the echo of your presence because it reminds them of the silence in their own lives. So let them talk, let them point, let them roll their eyes. You know your heart, you know your path. You know the nights you prayed for this peace. The days you worked for this joy. You know the tears that watered your confidence. You did not become this version of yourself overnight. You birthed it through pain, through surrender, through trial and truth. You did not arrive here to explain yourself to those who never even asked about your becoming. You did not rise just to tiptoe around people who chose to stay grounded. You did not heal just to return to the wounds you outgrew. You walk with grace. You walk with wisdom. You walk with the weight of everything you have overcome. And that walk intimidates those who have yet to start theirs. So no, you do not think you are better than everyone. You have just decided not to pretend you are less than you are. And if that offends someone, that is not your burden to carry. Not everyone likes you. They say it like a warning, like a prophecy, like a threat hanging in the air, meant to bring you down a few inches, meant to remind you that no matter how bright you shine, someone will always find a reason to shade you. But that is not news. That is not revelation. That is not something you just discovered. You have known for a long time that you rub some people the wrong way just by being yourself. You have seen the side eyes. You felt the energy shift when you walk into the room too sure, too joyful, too unapologetic. You have seen how people bond over their discomfort with your confidence. How silence becomes a language and distance becomes a decision. Not everyone likes you is not a shock. What used to shake you now strengthens you. There was a time you bent over backward to be liked. You rounded your edges, dulled your voice, shrunk your dreams just to make people feel comfortable. You over-explained yourself. You laughed at things that were not funny. You said yes when you wanted to scream no. You made yourself small so others would not feel small beside you. And still they did not like you. Still they talked. Still they whispered your name with contempt in their mouths and confusion in their hearts. Because no matter how kind you were, how humble, how soft-spoken, they had already decided how they wanted to see you. And it had nothing to do with who you really are. So now when someone says not everyone likes you, you nod because finally you have made peace with the truth that used to haunt you. You were never meant to be everyone's cup of tea. You are too bold for some, too deep for others. Too joyful for people who are committed to their pain, too authentic for those still wearing masks. Your presence reminds them of what they buried. Your voice wakes up what they silenced. And your freedom, oh, your freedom, it stirs something in people who have spent their lives caged. Not everyone likes you is not an insult. It is a sign you have stopped living for applause. It means you have started choosing peace over people-pleasing, purpose over popularity, truth over trend. You have realized that being liked is not the highest goal, and it never was. Being liked can be bought, performed, manipulated. Being real, though, that costs you something. And the price is often the approval of those who only loved your mask. They do not like that you speak up now, that you say what you mean and mean what you say, that you do not perform pain for pity or fake humility to seem digestible. They do not like that your smile does not need permission anymore, that your joy is not fragile, that your boundaries are firm and your light does not dim itself to fit into broken spaces. They say not everyone likes you like it is supposed to stop you. But it only shows you that you are living in alignment. Because when you finally choose truth, someone always walks away. When you finally choose yourself, someone always calls it selfish. When you finally grow, someone always mourns the version of you they could manipulate. And still you grow. Still you love yourself too much to play small again. Still you walk into rooms knowing full well there will be whispers. And still you walk tall. You no longer make yourself soft for people who bite. You no longer chase the ones who walked away the moment you needed to be understood. You bless them. You release them. But you do not beg them to return. Because you have learned being disliked does not mean you did something wrong. Sometimes it means you did something right. You set boundaries. You told the truth. You loved yourself. You stopped apologizing for your presence. You stopped showing up to places that did not value you. You started choosing people who clap when you win, not just those who stick around when you lose. You chose to be whole, and that kind of wholeness offends people who thrive on your fractures. So let them not like you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them make you the villain in the story they tell to make peace with your growth. You are not here to manage anyone's discomfort. You are not here to entertain projections. You are not here to convince people of your worth. You are worthy whether they see it or not, whether they clap or not, whether they stay or not. The ones who matter will recognize you. The ones who carry light will not be threatened by yours. And the ones who have done their own healing will not punish you for having done yours. So let not everyone likes you be the background noise to a life lived on purpose. Let it remind you that you finally stopped living on mute. Let it prove that you are no longer addicted to approval because now, finally you are free. Let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them roll their eyes and mumble behind your back. Because jealous people always say the same words. But powerful people do not have time to respond to echoes. You are not here to make everyone comfortable. You are not here to keep anyone secure in their stagnation. You are here to rise, to evolve, to glow without guilt. So let the jealous keep speaking and you keep becoming.